Well, good afternoon and welcome back to another live iThemes training event. My name is Nathan Ingram. I'm the host here at iThemes Training, and I am joined today by Michael Moore. Michael is the support team lead for iThemes Security and has served on the security support team for almost 3 years now. And in that time, he's answered well over 10,000 support tickets on WordPress security related issues. So as you can imagine, he's learned a thing or two about helping WordPress users secure their websites. Now, today, Michael's going to give us a walkthrough of a really cool new feature of iThemes Security, and that is the security dashboard. And he's here to answer your questions as well. So welcome back, Michael. We're glad you're back with us today.
Well, I am super excited to be here to show off the new security dashboard.
Awesome. So what is the goal of this new dashboard?
What we wanted to do with the security dashboard was grab some of the information out of the logs and then put it in a card to make it a little smaller but bite-sized chunk so it's easier for people to consume and give people a way to monitor the security of their site on a single page and do it quickly and then move on with their day.
Awesome. So, in past webinars, we've talked about the security logs, and those can be a little bit intimidating for some folks. A lot of information there, and it's somewhat difficult to get unless you really go line by line, it's kind of hard to get a picture of what's going on. And so this security dashboard was really kind of created from the feedback of our users to be able to get into that information better. So it's a really neat feature if you've not yet seen that. A couple of housekeeping details as we get started. Again, the chat room is live at ithemes.com/chat. So if you're just joining us in GoToWebinar, make sure you head over there. We don't use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar control panel. We have our live chat. And so if you have a question about anything you're seeing on the screen, or really, I think, Michael, would you be open to any security questions today that folks might have?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So any WordPress security related issues, just drop those in the chat room. Again, ithemes.com/chat. It's always helpful for me if you preface your question with the word question and all uppercase. And I'll be collecting those questions throughout, and we'll have a good time of Q&A as we're wrapping up today. Now, if you do ask a question, just kind of watch the chat room for any follow-up questions I might have for you. That way, I want to make sure we give Michael a good, clear question to answer. So if you ask a question, watch the chat and make sure there are no clarifying questions to go along with that. As always here, I will be giving you the link for all the slides at the end of today's webinar. We'll give you that slide link to download. So anything you see on the screen, you'll be able to get that in a PDF, other than the live demo. We can't put that in a PDF very easily. But all the slides you'll get, and we'll also give you the replay, which will be available roughly an hour or so after we wrap up today. Now, okay, Michael, here's a good question. We'll just jump into this from Ted. Did you design and code the dashboard?
I did not. Excuse me, I did not. Timothy, the lead developer of iThemes Security, he's the one who did the majority of the coding, and then Sailor, she is our design lead here at iThemes, and she did the different designs for it. If you go to YouTube and look up iThemes, you'll find our channel, and then I actually did a WordPress development corner where I interviewed Sailor and Timothy about how they came up with and collaborated on the security dashboard.
Very cool. Very cool. So if you guys want to meet Sailor and Timothy, again, Sailor is the design lead, as well as Timothy, the developer lead. You can check those folks out on the YouTube channel, which we're adding to all the time there at youtube.com, of course. Okay, so lots of specific questions, and guys, I'll be saving those, and ladies, be saving those out, and we'll come back to all those at the end. But for now, let's dive into the material and look a little bit deeper into what the dashboard's all about.
All right, let's get started. Click back over here. Okay, so the security dashboard includes helpful settings. That way you can choose who's able to view the dashboard. Let me just go ahead and share that to you real quick. Because one of the feedback that we heard from you guys is that you guys wanted more control over what users see what. And so when we go down to the security dashboard, you click the configure settings. Now you can you can disable users from seeing or creating new dashboards unless you explicitly share a dashboard with them, which we'll go over about how to do that a little bit more later. And then this is, yeah, again, it's helpful anytime we get quality feedback from you guys. And that's something that we've kind of heard over and over again, is that you guys wanted more control over what people can see. And you can expect to see a little bit more of that in the future as well. More control. And the security cards, what the security cards are, we utilize the security cards to give you information, a lot more information in a more digestible way. Like Nathan was talking about earlier, sometimes the security logs can be intimidating, and then even breaking down how to use that data or what to gather from the data is difficult. So we just wanted to make it a little bit easier for you guys. And then, so there's going to be 13 different kind of cards. And what we'll do is we're going to go over each card, and then we'll kind of take a look at them in the dashboard afterwards. Now, the malware scan is going to be the first card. It is a quick way that you can go in and then see your last several scans. If you need to view a particular scan in the security logs, you can just click the view and it'll take you right to that scan result. And then, and again, don't worry, we're going to go over all this again later when we actually look at the physical cards. And then the user security profiles. This is going to be a list of every single user on your site and give you a quick overview of their security, whether or not they're using two-factor, the strength of their password, and give you just the important information as it relates to security. Now, the third one is you can pin a single user security profile to your security dashboard. That way, if you want to just pin your admin users there, or your editors, or people who are supposed to be logging into your site, you can see the last time they were logged in, and make sure that your privileged users are using two-factor and a strong password. Now, the next screen is going to be your active lockout. So if you have any active lockouts, you'll see them right here on this card, and then it'll also be an easy way for you to go in there. You click on the lockout and you'll be able to clear it. And then we also have a Lockouts History card, which will show you the history of your lockouts on the site, and then give you more information about what percentage of it is a username lockout, what percentage is a host lockout. Ban users is going to be the history of IPs that have been banned, and then it'll also give you a percentage of why they were banned. So you can see on this particular card, everyone that was banned from the site were banned from for using the login username admin, because I have it set in the security settings to automatically lock out users using the admin username. Now, we also included a graph of the history of brute force attacks, so you can kind of pinpoint when that activity was happening. And then also, if you see a bunch of jumps on a particular, like at the present moment, you can go in and make sure you have your settings set in a way that is going to make sure that these bad actors get locked out or banned from your site. Trusted devices, you can see who's logging in with your trusted devices, where they auto-approved. So for example, this is showing that it was auto-approved because when I enabled the feature, I was logged in on the device, and the device was auto-approved. And then you can, if you get some login alerts from unknown locations that you're not aware of, you'll be able to see the number of times that you block devices, and then also the number of times you approve devices. 404s is going to give you a quick overview of the past 30 days of the 404s that have occurred on your site. Database backups, a history of your database backups. Then we have an update summary. So if you're taking advantage of the iThemes security version management feature, if you go in there, you can see you'll be able to enable auto updates for WordPress core plugins and themes. And this will just show you the history of updates on your site, which, as we know, updating is one of the most important things you can do for the security of your site. Now, let's hop back in. We'll come back to the board a little bit later, or these slides a little bit later. Whoops. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead and take a look at the security dashboard. So here is my default dashboard. And as you can see, it's all the cars that I've listed. And what's cool, let's go ahead and let's create a new board, and then we'll kind of go through it together and how you can customize it. Before I go any further, I just want to make sure that I am not going too fast. If anyone has any specific questions about any of the cards that I went over.
Yeah, it's a bunch of questions that have popped in, but let's go through the live demo and we'll save all those questions for the wrap up.
Perfect. So let's create a board. Let's go ahead and start with the default layout. And then how you get to this screen is you go to your dashboard, click on that. Here's your security dashboard. And then the first time you view it, you'll see this screen because you will not have a board created yet. So we'll go ahead and create the board. And while it's populating those cards. Okay, so as we talked about in the while we're going over the slides, you have these different cards that takes the chunks of information out of the logs and displays them here. And what's cool about this is that these are we want to make the board completely customizable for you. That way you can see the cards at the size that you want to see them. You can group them together in the order that you want to see them. And then you can add and remove whatever cards you want. It's not our dashboard. This is your dashboard created by you. So if you want to add or remove any of the cards, you can click the edit cards. As you can see, most of these cards have already been added, but if you want to remove a card from the board, you just click the X next to it and it'll be removed from the board. And to re-add that card, let's go ahead and re-add it by clicking the plus sign. And let's go ahead and just add all these on here just so we have them on the board. We'll add a single user security profile. And when you add this single user security profile, it's just going to add a blank card. And that way you can use the drop-down box to select which user you want to monitor. Okay, and so like I was talking about earlier, this board is completely customizable. So let's say that you want to group your brute force attacks and lockouts all together. So let's go ahead and just drag this lockouts right down here. Let's move our brute force attacks over. And then we're going to want our banned users on this row as well. And let's go ahead and get our lockouts back up here. All right, and another cool thing is, especially if you have one of these, all right, let's get this down here. Okay. So especially if you have a graph with a lot of information on it, you might want to widen it. That way it's a little bit easier to view, and you can also change the height of it. So that's what's cool about these cards. Like if you just want a little bit more condensed, you can take the update summary, make it smaller, and then you will see that you can get the information in a little smaller chunk. And then, sorry, I'm using a new trackpad, and I thought I was used to it, but I'm having a couple small issues with it. But as you can see, you can kind of move them all around, make it completely customizable, make it exactly how you want to see it. And what's good about this is, like, let's say you have different users that on your site that you want to only have information about specific things. So let's say that you just want your client to be able to see malware scans and brute force attacks. So you can pin those cards to a board, and then you can click this button to share your dashboard. Now you can share it with a specific user, but if you have several people managing multiple sites for you, you can choose to share each dashboard with all administrators. So now that I click share, anytime an administrator logs into their to the back end of your site, they'll have access to the board. And so when you want to switch between boards, in case you just want to have specific boards for specific recordings, you can create as many boards as you want here. You can set any board to be your primary, But let's say I want to go to my dashboard, click the view button, and it quickly brings me over to this new board. And here we have an overview. And if you want a brief description of the overview, you can click this help screen right here. And this is going to tell you that the events tracked is the total number of logged events across all of iThemes security. So whether it's a user logging and recording, if it's a 404 recording, a brute force attack recording, that's going to be the total events that have been recorded. And then it's going to tell you the suspicious activity that's been recorded in the security logs. The activities blocked, and the IPs monitor is the number of ITs that are currently being tracked by iThemes security. And then you can also do a quick link to the Help Center article about the dashboard, and then a quick link article. If you have any questions, you can just hit us up, and then we'll be more than happy to answer any questions about the security dashboard that you might have. But again, my favorite feature about this is it's your dashboard, create it your way, and you get to share it with who you want to. One of the main things that we really want to focus on is giving you guys the tools that you want and let you manage the security of your site how you want to. You are in control, which you should be. And again, like these are completely customizable. Change the sizes of them, move them around, make it your own. And then once you perfected it, share it with who you want to. Now that's kind of just a quick overview of, oh, I lost my cards. Let's go forward. Sorry, I accidentally exited out of this earlier. So yeah, once you enable the dashboard view, you'll be able to see it both in the admin menu, and you can also get to it from the setting itself. And again, it's completely customizable. You pick the cards you want to see, the order you want them to appear, and how big you want each card to see. And then again, you get to share it with the information you want to share with the people you want to share it with. But you do need to have WordPress 5.0 or above, or iThemes Security version 5.7 and above. And the reason why you have to have WordPress 5.0 is that we had to, we needed the things that Gutenberg brought in order to make this possible, which is one of the great things about this is they're going to continue to add more things, more different like JavaScript libraries and different things that tools we can use to make this better. So this is just the first iteration. And so what we really want from you guys is a little bit of help, because this was a user idea that we then kind of put into action. We want to know what else you guys want to see. How can we make this better? And so any feedback that you guys can give us, you can go to, you can email me directly at mmoore@ithemes.com. If you have any suggestions, there is a article, like the feature release article that I wrote on iThemes.com. You can comment there, or you can comment on the YouTube video I did about it, because we want your guys' feedback. Because again, this is your guys' feature, and we want to make it better for you. So please, please, please help us and give us any of your ideas that you guys would like to see. And then I'd love to take some questions for you guys about anything iThemes security related.
Awesome. So a lot of great comments in the chat room about how cool this is. And there's a lot of things you can do just out of the box here. And like Michael said, this is something we've developed for you guys. So if you have questions or comments of additional things you'd like to see in the dashboard, absolutely reach out to us and we'll see about getting that added. So got a bunch of questions that have come in, and I'm still kind of catching up on getting those recorded. But let's just start here. You mentioned that you have to have WordPress 5.0 in order to use the security dashboard. Mike wanted to know, what if you have WordPress 5, but you're using Classic Editor? Is that going to affect the use of the plugin?
It is not.
Right. So WordPress 5 brings a whole body of additional libraries and access of things that Gutenberg needs. So just because you've disabled the editor, all those libraries are still there, and that's what this dashboard is leaning on. So by the way, those of you who have been anti-Gutenberg, and I will put myself in that camp at the beginning, I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical, but one of the things I've been saying for a while is the whole addition of Gutenberg to WordPress, it brings all these underlying components that developers can tap into, and this is just one of the very first things you'll see iThemes do to make use of all these new cool components that are now available in the core of WordPress. So pretty cool stuff. All right, go ahead.
In that WordPress development video I talked about earlier, the when we interviewed Timothy and Sailor, I asked them what they were kind of excited about and how they were incorporating into their work. And Timothy, as soon as I asked him that question, he lit up, and it was all about WordPress 5.0 and the tools that they're giving him as a developer to make cool new things. So just like Nathan was saying, this is just the first thing that we're doing. This is the first iteration, and I am definitely pro Gutenberg.
Awesome. Okay, now let's get to questions, because I've got about like 15 or 18 questions stacked up here for you. And by the way, if we have time, we got plenty of time here, folks. This webinar is set up kind of to do a demo, but then really to answer your questions, not only about the security dashboard, but iThemes security and WordPress security in general. This is a monthly webinar we've started to do all about iThemes security and WordPress security. So any questions like that, drop them in the chat, and we'll do our best to get those questions answered for you. So Stacy would like to know, she says, I see on the dashboard suspicious activities. There are 2 of them. How do I find out what these are?
Okay, so your suspicious activity, like let's go back here, let's click the help, and then it's going to be the total activity iThemes security deemed suspicious, such as 404 invalid login attempts, which that includes missing reCAPTCHA, and then unrecognized trusted devices. So that's going to be broken down in a few different cards. So the first thing with the suspicious activity you're going to see is the 404s. And then this is, you're going to see your total number of the 404s right here. And then the banned users, you can see the lockouts were from using admin. And then you can see your brute force attacks, which a brute force attack is generally just going to be someone randomly guessing usernames and passwords on your site. And then you can get your trusted devices information here. And then, just like before, if you want to get a list information of this, you can still go get the full logs and go to your warnings over here to see or important events. Here we go. Go to your important events. That way you can see your file. Okay. All events will show you the logging in, logging out, what kind of 404 errors that you've had, the invalid login attempts. You can also go here and to this drop down box. If you want to go like to reCAPTCHA, I can filter. And you can see I have no failed reCAPTCHA attempts. So on my dashboard, I can just see that the most of them are going to be from these 404s. And then, what's cool about here is 404s, like 0% is a possible bot. And the reason why we know it wasn't a possible bot is because 43% of the 404s were hit by a logged in user, and 57% of them were IPs that were logged that we have recorded, that iThemes has recorded and knows that this is a trusted user. So this is just me probably hitting in the incorrect URL and then hitting on a 404.
All right. So while you're right there, another question came in about that lockouts card. It says there's one lockout, but it says 33% hosts, 67% usernames. What's going on there?
That was the same lockout, I think. I am not 100% sure why it is showing that. I'll share that with the developer and make sure that's not a bug, or if I am just lacking some.
And we are on a test site here, and so there could be some data in there that's, a lot of things have been tested back and forth on this dev site.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yep. No. Next question along the line. JJ said, the other day I had over 300 locked out hosts. Should I consider this excessive, or is that not unusual?
It depends. Like, it's not that abnormal. 300, it's a lot. That's a lot of locked out hosts. But if it's just like a network of IPs, a network of like bot IPs doing brute force attacks, or and they'll use like hundreds of different IPs just trying to test. That way they can prevent themselves from being banned from most security measures. So they'll quickly hit a site with these 300 different IPs that they've rented, and then move on to the next site once they've all gotten banned, or they've just been unsuccessful.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's probably just a bot network that just swoops in real quick and then swoops out.
Yeah, JJ, you're on somebody's list, my friend. Lucky you. Mike would like to know, what does the iThemes Security Pro malware scanner actually scan? Like what files, what parts of the site? He said a client asked him the other day and he wasn't 100% sure.
Well, let me pull this up for you real quick. All right. And I'll throw this link in the chat as well. But this will be everything that is going to scan. There's a 10-point scan. Okay. Sorry, this is not the right URL. Sorry, I was literally just looking at this URL earlier today, and now we're scanning. All right, sorry, I know.
So basically, iThemes Security is using the Security malware scanner, and it's scanning the home page, which is where most malware is going to show up if it exists on your site primarily. Is that right, Michael?
Yes, primarily yes. It does. I can't find that link right now. I'm sorry, but yeah, it starts at the home page. It'll scan. It looks for like suspicious scripts, because they've been doing a lot of changes to their remote scanner and the scanner that we use in their API, which is a little bit deeper than just like the site check scan, which is their remote scanner. So it searches through the site, looks for suspicious scripts. It looks for possible vulnerabilities. It checks for multiple SPF records to ensure that your site isn't being, your email web server isn't being used to distribute spam. And one of the reasons why that's an important thing to check is because a lot of times you won't know that they're sending emails out, and then your SPF record will get added to the spam list. So everything you send to customers from now on will automatically go in the spam list, because you've been marked as spam due to them abusing your scanner. They check your TSL records, make sure that's up to date. So it's not just checking for malware, it's checking for possible security vulnerabilities as well, and areas that you can improve the security of your site.
Gotcha. And again, I'm getting some questions in the GoToWebinar control panel. So if you have questions, please put those in the chat room at iThemes.com/chat. It's hard for me to watch two places at once. So if you have questions, I'm not going to be able to look at the questions in the GoToWebinar. Drop them there in the chat, and that way we can get clarifications and so forth all in one spot. iThemes.com/chat. Okay, next question down the line here. Dave is asking, how can I find the exact source of a malware issue?
So if you get a malware, if security picks a malware on your site, you can look at, like I say, you come to your security log and you see a failed scan right here on your malware scan. You can view and then go. You'll see the scan rise design. Let's go to the logs, and then you can go actually to your view details and then show raw details, and then you can usually show where the error is and then the URL that it's pointing to, and then but the thing that one of the coolest things I've ever seen since I started working here was Chris, who's been here forever. He's had his hands in just about everything iThemes as a developer, and him actually going through and showing me on this piece of malware how it's obfuscated itself, how it only does activity at certain times to avoid being picked up by a malware scanner, and then hides itself. So even if you think you remove it, it can still be hidden somewhere else in a different directory, and so it can come back and reinvent itself and reveal itself. So if you ever do get a malware scan, I would suggest either restoring from a backup. That way you can get restored to a point prior to the point that your site's been compromised, or hiring a malware scan removal company or service, just because it is extremely difficult to ensure that your site is clean, because not only will they ensure that they found the origin of the site, they'll figure out what the point of entry is and then be able to get that patch for you so it doesn't happen again immediately. And if for whatever reason they missed it, why the first time they went through and cleaned it, they'll be able to go back in and do it even more thorough clean and check every single directory and make sure it's off your site. That's one of the reasons why we don't have our own malware service, is because the level of expertise that you need to do it properly and to do it like a very good job at it is very high, and we just don't have enough people to be able to who have that level of knowledge.
Yeah, much better cooperate with somebody that specializes in that area.
Yes.
MR Michelle would like to know: do the security cards do they slow down the site at all?
No, they don't, because this is information that was already being recorded in the logs. We do add an event thing, an event table in your database, but these are only populated when you are on this page. So it's not going to add any extra kind of overhead to your site. Because the library is already right there in Gutenberg.
Right. Let's see. BG would like to know, once you've shared a dashboard with a user or a role like you showed, can you take it back?
Can
you unshare it?
Let's go here. Or let's go share it. And then user. And then now I can click on the user and then click remove, and they'll no longer have access to the board. And again, this is a development site, so it's not being removed right now, but it should remove. But yes, you can. But this is just a development site that unfortunately seems like I might have some bugs somewhere in it that I need to find later.
Gotcha. But yeah, it's easy to take those back. Once you share them, you can unshare them, just like Michael just showed. Another question: are cards able to be imported, exported into other sites?
As of right now, no.
Gotcha. But might be a great feature. Once you get a setup that you like, maybe be able to export that.
Yeah.
There's some good ideas that folks have had about some additional improvements that we're definitely going to share upstream here. Let's see. Stacy would like to know, is this the dashboard only shareable for users who are logging into the site, or is there some way to send this like a report to clients?
Right now, in iteration 1, you can only share users on the site.
Gotcha. Now, if you have iThemes Sync, you can share some security statistics with clients. But again, that's a good feature that perhaps up the road could be incorporated into the plugin. It's a good idea. Let's see. Gene would like to know, can you create a dashboard? Oh, I'm sorry, that was just answered. Could you use it as a template on another site? Gene, that's something, it's a good idea, and we'll pass that along. Let's see. Helene would like to know, is this useful on a membership site? Will I be able to see my customers log in and if they get locked out?
You'll be able to see if they get locked out. Now you can, let's go to our user profiles. It's not going to have like your membership roles because we don't want to populate all that data. Because if you have a membership site, it's going to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of users, and pulling up all of those in a single card, that will slow you down your site because it's just too much information. You can still go to the user logging settings. So let's just go to filter by user logging. Oh, first I need to go to all events. And then you can see all that information here, but we didn't want to put that in the logs because to populate all that on a single card would slow down your site.
Gotcha. Let's see here. Back to the security scanner. Nate would like to know, once there's a security warning, how do we remove that? So I know that security will kind of caches those results for a certain time. Do you know how long that lasts?
No, I don't know. I honestly don't know the exact time of how long that lasts. You can go to the sitecheck.security URL, and then you can force a rescan from there. That will flush the cached version out. But as far as removing the malware, again, either contact hack repair service. We officially recommend security, or restoring from a backup that does not that has not been compromised.
Gotcha. Let's see. So several folks, Stacy and Heather and some others, have made some requests on maybe a little more detailed report. Like, for example, being able to look at those suspicious activities and maybe see some more details kind of right there on that card. Or Heather wanted to know, is there a way to get a more detailed report that would describe the possible reasons better? Are there plans to bring any more detail into some of these cards that exist now?
Yes. This is just the first iteration of it, and we're hoping to continually improve the information that's on the cards. And currently we are limited with some of the things that we can do, because not everything not all libraries that are going to be added to WordPress have been added yet, and not everything is turned on yet. But once those get turned on, which Timothy is paying very, very close attention to, we'll get more of that stuff on there. And but yeah, I'm sure like next time I have an opportunity to talk to Timothy and Taylor together specifically about the security dashboard, see if there's a way that we can get more information on the screen in a helpful way.
Yeah, so it's kind of a tap dance. I mean, you want the purpose of the dashboard is to make the information, all the granular information in the security log more easily viewable, more visualized. And so what you don't want to do is have all the information there, because that sort of defeats the point. So it's kind of a dance between, enough to be helpful, but not enough to clutter. So, but yeah, all these suggestions are great, and these will definitely be passed upstream.
Yes.
Let's see. Heather would like to know that's kind of what we just talked about a more detailed report to describe the reasons. Is there a way, so there were some questions earlier about, what happens if your site gets hacked. Is there a way to see what files actually need to be removed or dealt with?
Yeah, if you go to the scan result, it'll show you where they found the compromised file or directory. But again, I mean, no offense by this whatsoever, but if you're asking that question, you should hire a hack repair service professional to do it, because I would not be comfortable removing malware on my own site because of the level of sophistication that some of the malware has, and the level of knowledge that you have to properly move malware from your site, because you need to be able to figure out what key they're using to obfuscate their code, and then go, which this is a long process, unobfuscate the code, see exactly where they deployed the malware onto your site. And it is not an easy task to do to ensure that you got your site cleaned properly. You might be able to get the one to remove the file that security has picked up on, but that doesn't mean that the file, the malware has been removed from your site.
Got it. Yeah, and again, there's questions about being able to force security to scan, rescan, and so forth. And we're tapping into their system using their API. So that's something you'll have to reach out to security support if it's still picking up a page that's been removed. That's something you need to just reach out to them for, and they're very helpful. Heather has a question. Is there a way that we can do better to recognize false positives? She says she has a site that was reporting some false positives, but wasn't able to realize that until she contacted support.
Unfortunately, we won't know whether or not it's a false positive. Like, for example, I did have a Windows Live Writer, which directory, which is actually part of WordPress, that was a false positive, but that stuff does get brought to their attention that is a false positive, and they'll go ahead and make sure that they whitelist that in their scan in the future. But unfortunately, there is no way for us using the API to detect whether or not we can see, or whether or not it would be a false positive.
Got it. All right, folks, we still have time for questions. If you have more questions about iThemes security or WordPress security in general, drop those in the chat room, iThemes.com/chat. JJ would like to know, what are your thoughts, Michael, about plugins that block hosts by country?
GOIP banning.
Yes.
The reason why I don't like that, just like I don't like our hide backend feature, for example, which it does do, it can help, and it can protect you from some dumb bots from finding your login page. But just like the GeoIP banning, it gives you a false sense of security. So people think that if they block the IPs from the specific site, they're actually going to block every user from the site. But the thing is, with VPN and them able to just rent a block of, let's say someone from Russia, they can rent a block of US IPs to use, and then discard them as soon as they're done, and you'll never know, it'll never be recorded on your server access logs that those IPs were coming from Russia. So since IPs are so easily spoofed, not a big fan of it. And then if you do blacklist all those IPs, so anytime anyone visits your site, your server has to go look at your HT access, which is where you write the deny and allow rules for IP addresses, and they'll have to scan those millions of IPs that you've added there to block the country IP code before it can say, okay, you can come in and visit the site because you're not one of these millions of bad IPs that have been blocked. So that's going to take more time for people to view your pages. And just as well as I do, like anytime a page has any lag at all, we are impatient and we want it to go now. And so I think that it doesn't provide enough real security to justify using it. But again, that's just my opinion about the GeoIP banning.
Got it. And Kit would like to know, is there any case you're aware of where iThemes security doesn't work on a particular host or website? He's saying he had go ahead.
Oh, no, the only thing I'm aware of is that we'll have people who are using Microsoft IIS servers, which we do not support that. If you look at WordPress requirements, they recommend that you use either Apache or Nginx for your server environment. But as a particular host or no, I think security should work.
Got it. Yeah, there's a lot of talk in the chat room right now about false positives, and that seems to be, pardon me, a hot point among some users on maybe giving some more detail to maybe identify a false positive more easily without having to go through support.
Unfortunately, we're limited by their API of what information that we can actually gather and then how we can display that information to you. Really, it's unfortunate at this moment. I don't see a way around that. That doesn't mean there won't be in the future. They will add more ability to their API because they have been changing their scan a lot, and that's why we're seeing more varied scan results of late. And for example, I know if you're on SiteGround, they use Encapsula, and now I've been seeing reports starting yesterday of Encapsula being flagged as possible malware, but it was actually just a false positive. But unfortunately, there is no way for us to determine, because we don't want to just assume just because it says Encapsula that it's a false positive and then code that in our somehow code it so anytime that comes up we can put false positive beneath it, because we don't know what's actually in the file. We can't see that. Right. Lightspeed server should be fine. Sorry, it's ADD.
Yep, and Kit had a follow up there where he had an issue with iThemes security running on a site. It was a GoDaddy Linux server. Is there any reason it wouldn't work with a particular site? Maybe a plugin conflict?
Yeah, there could, just depending, anytime you're dealing with software, especially on the web, there is always going to be room for conflict. So anytime you're troubleshooting, the first thing you're going to want to check is for a plugin or theme conflict. So disable all your plugins and see if that helps. If it does, you can re-enable the plugins one at a time to identify any possible conflict. And then go ahead.
I was going to say there's a great plugin that we talked about on the plugin roundup a few months ago here called WP Safe Mode by Marcus Sykes. Marcus Sykes built one of the early WordPress calendar plugins. It's still a great one, but this actually lets you disable plugins for your user only, so you don't have to like turn off all the plugins on your site for live traffic. But it lets you really do a good job of doing that job of disabling plugins to make sure there's not a plugin conflict and weed that out of the equation. So that's a good one, and I'll drop a link in the chat in just a minute for that. All right, any other questions?
If you're having issues on GoDaddy with like on a specific site on GoDaddy, that we haven't had any reports of any specific conflicts with GoDaddy, so that it will be something specific to your site, and it will likely be a plugin or theme conflict.
Yeah, I would definitely agree there. Let's see. Stacy would like to know, how do I see the security profiles of all my users?
Okay, so the user security profiles, this is I don't have very many users on the site. So here's every single user that is currently on my site. So I have one named Bad Actor just because I added this user when I was going over the logs showing how to track a bad actor's activity. And then Chris, me, and Timothy. And then that's all the users on my security profile. Is that what you're wanting to see, Stacy?
Yeah, so if you have additional users, is it going to scroll down or does the card get bigger? How does that work?
Yeah, it'll scroll down. It'll scroll down, and then you can also increase like the height of the card. So you can get more users on there.
Yeah, these are all great suggestions, folks, and I wish we had some better answers for some of you. But, this is our effort based on your feedback of, gosh, there's a lot of information in the logs, and how do we make that more practical? So this is our first shot at that, and lots of great suggestions by people, particularly the false positives. Maybe we can do a better job on, getting even more information, more accessible for you here in the dashboard. So we really appreciate all of that feedback. Nate would like to know, how do we track a bad actor's activity by time and date?
All right. Well, let's go to all events, and then let's do user logging, and then click filter. And then, all right, let's go. Let's see if we can find a bad actor log entry. Here we go. Click on bad actor, or actually, sorry, let's filter by bad actor right here. And then here's all of bad actors activity. That makes sense. So yeah, just go to all events, then in your drop-down tab, click user logging filter, find the user you want, and then click the filter icon, and then you'll get to see every single thing that they've been up to, including logging out, disabling plugins, activating plugins, installing plugins, adding posts, logging in, logging out, whether or not they logged in with two-factor, they failed reCAPTCHA. They're doing it. We're keeping track of it.
So Stacy is asking, what is a bad actor? And I was going to make a bad joke and say Keanu Reeves, but maybe you can define that a little better.
Well, Keanu Reeves is a saint and a great actor, but but bad actor is the user. That's the username of this particular user that I made just to illustrate the point of this user is not a good user. So it's this one's just named that.
Bad guy, right?
Bad guy.
Yeah, people who are potentially malicious.
Yes, it's who Keanu Reeves fights in his great movies.
Absolutely. Heather is asking, is there a feature for iThemes to set up the backup locations to be postable on cloud storage instead of the local server? Now, Heather, I'm not sure I'm understanding your question correctly, but we do offer the ability to send Backup Buddy backups to a remote destination. Lots of cloud storage, Dropbox, Drive, FTP, Google Drive, FTP locations, our own iThemes Sync backup service, which is very easy to configure, S3. Is that what you're after? And if you'll clarify that in the chat. Here's, in the meantime, Mike would like to know, not security related, but do people ever confuse you, sir, with the other Michael Moore?
No, I am much better looking.
Okay, Heather's clarifying too, the iThemes dashboard. Oh boy, we're going off the rails here. Yes. Heather's talking about the iThemes database backup option there in iThemes Security.
No, this will always be local. This is just a very, very basic backup to restore your database. So still not gonna. I don't think we're gonna evolve that ever to be sent to like an offsite location. And but yeah, our Backup Buddy product is the one that you want to use if you want a more robust backup feature.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little history on this. iThemes Security started off life as Better WP Security by Chris Wigman, who's a brilliant developer. And Chris joined the iThemes team for a while when we brought in his plugin, and it became iThemes Security. That backup feature was part of that plugin all along, just as a very basic, just so you didn't have to have another solution just to get a database backup. And, it's a very basic backup system. It's always, Backup Buddy is a much more robust product. And so that's definitely the one we'd recommend to use for a backup of your full site database, just the files, just the plugins. It has lots of different options to do with backup. So Backup Buddy is a much better option, and it has all of those off-site storage locations, as well as the ability to schedule a scan, schedule your backups and have them shipped off automatically to those remote destinations. Let's see, Nate, is there a way to set up these settings, including the dashboard, to export, re-import to a new install?
Sorry, what were they asking?
Yeah, Nate, if I understand your question correctly, what you want to know is if there's if you set up all the settings for iThemes Security, including the dashboard on one site, can all of that be exported and then imported to a new site that you're setting up?
You can use the iThemes Security import-export feature. It's not going to have, it's not going to be able to transfer everything, because some stuff is going to be site-specific, like your reCAPTCHA keys or two-factor, because that's going to be user-dependent. And then it's not going to be able to import a template of your dashboard feature, but if you have it the security dashboard enabled when you're doing your importing and exporting, it should be enabled when you import on the new site, which, how about I just use our handy search feature? If I can type, there we go, import. So yeah, so you can create an export by just entering your email address, and it'll send you an export of the settings. And then you can download that, and then you can choose a file. It'll just be a JSON file that you will then upload by clicking the load settings, and it will import your the settings to your new fresh install site. You can also, from Sync, you can in the security tab of the site overview, you can export the settings directly from there, and then import them into your new site as long as both sites are synced.
Yep. So you can do the import export there from iThemes Sync, the multiple site management tool, and from right there as well. The dashboard is a new feature. It is not included in the import export. But Nate, just to answer your question, as a person who manages in my own freelance business, lots of different client sites, and if we onboard a new site, I have a basic, kind of like my starter settings for iThemes security in a file that's just sitting there. And like you say, it's there's a lot of settings to go through. So I just import that file, and you have to go in and activate the network brute force protection. But I think that's really the only setting that I have to go in and change, unless I want to do things like reset the WordPress salts and maybe deal with some of the HTTPS settings and set up two-factor. But as far as the general settings to harden WordPress, you can import all of those with the file that Michael described. Let's see. Doe has a question. I have some clients that are looking to check what their users or employees are doing when they log in. Can that be added to sync reports?
There is not the user logging is not currently in the sync reports, but I can definitely pass it along to the sync developers as a feature request of something that people would like to see in the reports.
Yeah, definitely. Although those user log reports are pretty long.
Yeah,
but yeah,
because it's everything. So yeah, any change and this is just a development site. So on any large site, that's going to be a ton of information.
Yeah. Now what you can do though, if they want a report, you could pull it up on the screen and make a PDF out of it, but that is a little clunky and it's not automated. But the information is there if that feature is turned on in iThemes Security. All right. Any last questions before we wrap up? Great questions today, folks. We really appreciate the feedback on the dashboard, and we're going to take all of the suggestions that were made as well. But hopefully, we've made a pretty good stride towards making these logs more accessible and visual than they have been in the past, for sure. Last chance for questions. We'll give it just a few more seconds. If you've got a question, drop it in there in the chat room, iThemes.com/chat. In the meantime, let me tell you, here's the slide link for those of you who would like to download the slides with an overview of the plugin. So there's that link in the chat, as well as if you want to go back and watch this on a replay, right here is the replay link. It's the same link that you signed up for the webinar upon. In just about an hour or less, that video ought to be posted there and viewable at that link that I just dropped in the chat room. So I think we've gotten to all our questions. Michael, this was a lot of fun today. You guys have done some great work. Really appreciate that. Thank Timothy for all of his hard work as well, and Sailor. Any last thoughts as we wrap up today?
No, I just want to thank everyone for showing up. And the important thing is that you guys are security aware. You're taking a proactive approach to your site security. And unfortunately, some people still have the idea that WordPress itself is an insecure platform, even though almost 190% of the actual hacks could have been prevented with a little bit of user effort. And you guys are the kind of people who are going to help the WordPress community by giving it a better name as far as security goes. So I always really appreciate people who take a proactive approach. So thank you guys very, very much.
Yeah, absolutely. And we really appreciate all of you guys hanging out with us today for the last hour. Hopefully it's been a good investment of your time and you've learned some things. I would encourage you, as you log off the webinar today, just spend 5 minutes and, drag around and play around with some of the cards and, put your favorite WordPress security dashboard together and just take what you've learned today and do it on one site. See how you like it. And again, we are always open for suggestions, so you can reach out to support@ithemes.com and, drop in some suggestions there as well. We take all of those seriously, and we'll do our best to continue to develop this product as something that is really helpful for you to use, whether you are a do-it-yourselfer with a few sites or one site, or whether you're managing sites for clients. We want this to be a great tool for you. Again, my name is Nathan Ingram, and for all of us here at iThemes, we do hope you have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you next time here on iThemes Training, where we go further together.